right. I'd like to call to order the legislative meeting. And we're going to start off with a pledge of allegiance from Mr. Pender.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chris. Next, we have our roll call by Mrs. Harding.
Mr. Burdell Williams,
Present.
Mr. Cullen,
Present.
Mr. England,
Present.
Mr. Fishbein,
Present.
Ms. Haywood,
Present.
Ms. Henry,
Present.
Ms. Lohman,
Present.
Mr. Pender,
Present.
and Mr. Schultz.
Present.
Thank you.
Miss Henry, you're on mute.
You would think I wouldn't be a rookie at that as much as I'm on Zoom meetings all day long, but it still happens even to me. Thank you, Mr. England. On behalf, next we have the President's Welcome and Report. So thank you and welcome everyone to the October 12th legislative meeting. On behalf of the entire board, I want to acknowledge Lou Kim and Katie Brett from our business office for their commitment and the handling of financial affairs for the district during the past few months. We realize the heavy lift and can only imagine what it took to keep things going day to day and to keep things moving along. The board would like for Katie and Lou to know how much we appreciate the work you've done, the work you continue to do, and to extend our gratitude to you. I'd also like to open it up to some of the other board members who may want to express their thoughts about the work you've been doing to keep things moving along. Mr. England?
Thank you, Miss Henry. I just would like to express my my personal thanks. You all have worked very hard to keep our office running effectively during a time of great change. And we truly do want to thank you for that and recognize you for all that you have done for the Cheltenham School District. Thank you.
Are there any other board comments? Okay. So again, thank you, Lou, for all your hard work. Also, what you will notice for the viewers and our community members and parents who are attending via Zoom, that we have changed the process for our legislative meeting slightly. Our goal is to streamline our reports for greater efficiency, encourage community of members to attend our committee reports, and to create a more efficient process. So in that, you'll see a shortened format. You will have access to all of the information via either the agenda or the presentations that will be posted online after each of the committee members. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Next, we have our Student Representatives Report.
Okay.
Dylan?
Sorry. Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that. Give me a second. Sorry. All right. So I'm here. I'm representing the student council for the school board, and I do have a report from Homecoming, Environmental Justice, and the Charity Committee. So for Homecoming, it says here, to replace the typical Homecoming dance, the student council organized a pre-game tailgate. It was well received by students, and attendance exceeded expectations, so that went very well. Homecoming shirt sales were highly successful, and the shirts ended up selling out. It's also good. And our team won the game, which is very, very good. For environmental justice, the Environmental and Sustainability Committee is currently working hard to possibly help implement environmental justice into Cheltenham's curriculum. And for the Charity Committee, we're working on organizing the annual Thanksgiving Baskets Food Drive. And the event is planned to give holiday meals to those in need and reaches out to our community. And that's what I have for my report.
Dylan, thank you so much and welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Superintendent's welcome and report, Dr. Hacker.
Thank you so much, Ms. Henry, and welcome to Dylan. It's really nice to have a student representative who is a part of offering up and sharing information with all of us. So many thanks, Dylan, for your report. We appreciate having you here. I want to take this opportunity because it is a highlight in terms of the School Boards Association and their annual honor roll recognition of school board service to recognize one of our own board members for his extraordinary and long-term service on the board, and that is Mr. Bill England. This is Bill's 8th year as a board member serving the Cheltenham community. He's going to receive a certificate in honor of his service to the board and to the community. Bill, we know you're going to soon be going off the board, unfortunately, but we do all want to take this opportunity to thank you for the many years of service, devoted service, and committed service that I personally know you've given to this board of school directors and to the entire Cheltenham community. So thank you from all of us, and of course from PSBA, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, as well. I'd also like to extend welcome, even though he's not quite on board yet, to our new facilities director who was selected last week, and that is Mr. Timothy Holman, who is currently serving and working in facilities in the Pennsbury School District in Bucks County. We had several rounds of interviews with nearly all of our administrators, both building and cabinet level, as well as several of our board members who were involved in the process. And ultimately, our new superintendent, Dr. Scriven, met with our finalists along with Ms. Henry and made his decision at the end of the week last week. So we're looking forward to welcoming our candidate. He's set to be board approved this evening, and hopefully he'll be with us within the next month or even less than that. So we welcome Mr. Holman to our team. I'd also like to provide a brief update on the fact that we have begun our testing of any of our staff members who are unvaccinated. I'm still awaiting the final numbers to know exactly how many of those individuals are, but I do know that we have a fairly high percentage, at least in the high 80s, if not higher, of individuals in our school district, including both support as well as professional staff who are indeed vaccinated. We will be following up this week with anyone who did not undergo the required testing last week. We do understand it was the first week, and individuals do need to get acclimated to the fact that they have to do this on their own. But we will be following up each week to ensure that those individuals do indeed undergo their mandatory twice per week testing. So we're very pleased that this program is up and running. I also would like to announce that I reached out to Ms. Jessica Keene this afternoon or this morning, our Student Services Director, to ask if we could perhaps schedule a workshop for parents addressing many of the mental health issues and concerns that we know are out there regarding student mental health and social and emotional issues as the result of what students have experienced during this past year during the pandemic. Ms. Keene was able to get back to me right away. One of our mental health providers, Effective School Solutions, who provides us with therapists and clinicians, is actually going to be scheduling a workshop for parents. So I'm really thrilled that Ms. Keene was really able to get this taken care of very, very quickly. The name of the workshop is entitled Taking a Mental Health Pulse, Student Mental Health and Academic Reacclimation. So I'm very excited about this. In that session, parents are going to learn about some of the COVID-related challenges, some appropriate responses to those challenges, and strategies that together we can use along with parents to support students as their caregivers, both during the day as well as at home. So again, I'm very excited about that. I also just want to mention that there is going to be a workshop sponsored by the PTO with our high school administration at the high school on Thursday evening to talk about a number of the issues that students are experiencing at the high school, how our administration is handling many of those issues, and also hopefully there will be some time for an interactive discussion so parents can express any questions or their concerns about what some of those issues have been. So I'm pleased that we are taking a proactive, hands-on approach to addressing a number of these particular issues. And finally, I just wanted to mention that once again, I was fortunate to be able to have an extended conversation with our new superintendent who's coming on board on November 1st, Dr. Scriven. We have been meeting regularly every single week to discuss a number of transition items. So I'm very pleased that not only is he setting aside some time to be able to do that, given his current very busy schedule and job, but also that I'm having the opportunity to be able to share with him a number of the wonderful things I've learned about the Cheltenham School District during my tenure here. So that's it for my report. Thank you so much, everyone.
Pam?
Pam, I believe you're on mute again. There you.
I was actually unmuting myself, but it wasn't working. I'm like, okay, sorry about that. Next week, thank you, Dr. Hacker, for your report. That's what I said. And next we have Mr. Roos with the Solicitors Report.
Thank you. I have no sunshine announcements to report. I do want to note that there have been several recent court decisions upholding the Department of Health mask mandates. And that is, so they have all been uniformly upheld throughout the state. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Next, we have public comments on agenda items only. If you wish to ask a question or make a comment on the agenda topics, please put your name and where you reside in the community next to your Zoom name and raise your hand. You are then able to ask your question via audio, but not video. So I will give a few minutes to see if in the participant pod, there are any community members that wish to ask a question. Also noted, if you are watching us via either streaming or on TV, you can email any questions or comments you have to csdboardmeetingcomments@cheltenham.org. And so I am not seeing any hands raised in the chat. We want to give a minute to see if anything comes through via email. And Kevin, are you seeing, I'm not seeing anything. Are you seeing anything come through or email?
I am not.
Okay. All right, thank you. So I will move on to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the September 21st and September 28th, 2021 Legislative Board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second, Jennifer Lohman.
Second, Jennifer Lohman. Any comments from the board members on the meetings? All right, we'll take this by affirmation vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Next, we'll move to our committee reports. Financial Affairs, Mr. Fishbein.
Thank you, Henry. The Financial Affairs Committee met on October 5th, 2021 by Zoom. At that meeting, we received a presentation from Chuck Linderman, who is again serving as interim business administrator for the district. That presentation may be found on the district's website. And for those of you who are new to our website, if you haven't found our meeting presentations, you go to board docs, meetings, and then each meeting is listed by the date and the topic. And when you click onto the meeting, financial affairs meeting for that date, on the detailed agenda, you can find the presentation. So on that presentation, which you can find in the way I just described, we had a preliminary look at the 2020-2021 financial results that were unaudited. And I do want to highlight one aspect of that presentation is that we are looking at a $2 million surplus, or an addition to our what we call our fund balance. When all of the COVID related savings were realized and tax revenues came in near projections, we were able to generate that surplus. But we have to keep in mind that much of that was one-time savings due to COVID. And we were also able to use federal funds called ESSER's funds for one-time facility expenses that in other years would have had to have been funded out of operations. In addition to that, we also got an update on the status of our 2020 audit and our 2021 audit. We did review the ESSER funds that were used and how they were used for the district. We had an update on transportation and an update on the food service RFP. During the consent agenda that follows the end of the committee reports, we will be approving the treasurer's report and approval of payments as listed. We will be searching for, or currently are searching for, a new business manager in the coming weeks with the help of our incoming superintendent, Brian Scriven. Next month's Financial Affairs Committee meeting will be on November 9th, 2021, immediately following the Facilities Committee meeting, which starts at 7 p.m. Both of those meetings will be conducted by Zoom. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Fishbein. Educational Affairs, Mr. Pender.
Good evening again, everybody. The Educational Affairs meeting was held on September 28th, 2021 via Zoom. The meeting was led by Dr. Smith, and we discussed 13 essential topics. I really encourage you to go look at the slides online because they're very informative. There's a lot of rich information that will keep you not only well informed, but also help you make some of your decisions around things happening in the district. We talked about Summer Program 2021, ESY, extended school years, COVID-19 compensatory services, Act 66, 2021. Act 66 is ensure school-age children do not lose educational opportunities due to COVID. We discussed current enrollment, mental health supports, social emotional learning, instructional technology, professional learning and development, Title I federal programming, PDE comprehensive plan, and CMI, cyclical monitoring for continuous improvement, and special education. Again, I encourage you to look at the slides, to go check out the slides, because there's a ton of information there that will keep you well informed of all the nuts and bolts that's happening in the educational committee, in our district. The next meeting is going to be held on Tuesday, October 19th, 7:00 p.m., and it will be virtual as well.
Thank you, Mr. Pender. Eastern Center for Arts and Technology, Mr. Burdell Williams.
Thanks, Ms. Henry. The Eastern Center for Arts and Technology did not meet yet in October. The JOC meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, October 13th at 8 p.m. and that meeting will be held via Zoom. The link to that meeting can be found at eastech.org. And also any past Joint Operating Committee board briefs and meeting minutes are also available at eastech.org/JOC for the information of the community and anyone in attendance tonight. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, Mr. England.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. I have a brief report. The MCIU board met last met on September 22nd. We had an announcement that day. The MCIU had been working to open up a partial hospital unit for children ages 5 through 12 here in Montgomery County. There has not been services for that age group, only grades 7 through 12. So in responding to a gap in mental health and behavioral health services, the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit opened up a partial hospitalization program in partnership with Explorations. This will serve eligible students in need from across Montgomery County. This will be, it is open and will be accepting new students. The program runs from 8:45 until 2:30 p.m. That was something that the executive director at the IU had been working long and hard with the county, and truly fills a need that is in Montgomery County. Just a few highlights from the September MCIU board meeting. Dr. Landis, the assistant executive director, provided an update to the board. MCIU has purchased the property at 375 Morris Road in West Point, Pennsylvania. This structure is partially rented. The purpose for the building is because of the need for more Head Start classrooms. There will be some work done on the building. We will be able to house, I believe it was 50 children on the first floor. And as I say, we have a tenant in the building that will help us to pay for the expenses of the building. We were able to purchase this out of funds, and there's just a great deal of excitement at the way Head Start has expanded in Montgomery County since MCIU was awarded the program 6 years ago. Ms. Idling, our financial director, informed the MCIU board that due to recent national supply chain issues, vendors of some of our copy books or hard books, Office Basics, has withdrawn their bid. This has caused a little bit of turmoil as we're having a difficult time getting some printed materials. The MCIU board had first reading of 3 policies. One was policy 006.1, attendance at meetings via electronic communications. This was a revision. 006 meetings, and policy number 815.2, telepresence. So these are evolving policies of the IU that reflect the period that we're in, the virtual meetings. Head Start Policy Council had met. Highlights of the meeting were that, pardon me, they approved the health and nutrition programs, human resource hirings, and the budget for the next 2-year grant for Head Start through the IU. The IU has not only been refunded each of the last 2 funding cycles, but last year, because there was additional funding available, Head Start in Montgomery County received an additional $200,000 to pay for more slots. Human Resources, there were 22 new employees, 7 resignations, 20 professional staff assigned as mentors and trying to provide additional supports to students and school districts served by the IU. The IU approved continuations and renewals of contracted technology service agreements to support school districts for 2021, 2022. In Cheltenham, MCIU provides our backup internet source. All the districts have access to a backup in case something would happen to our main source of broadband. Upcoming meetings, today was actually the October Head Start Policy Council meeting. The next meeting of the IU will be November 17th. Because of the Thanksgiving holiday, the IU suspended holding board meetings several years ago because we had a hard time getting quorum during a season when many school board directors were running for re-election. The next meeting, as I said, will be November 17th. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. England. Facilities, Mr. England, you're up again.
Thank you. Facilities. So following our new format, our Facilities Committee meeting met on October 5th, and it was held virtually via Zoom. The meeting, I do not believe that we have any items that are included in the consent agenda. I believe that there were some purchases that were discussed that were made by administration. The topics were the presentation about facilities from October 5th can be found on the district school site website. You can either go to cheltenham.org, departments, presentations, October 5th facilities, or you can find it on board docs. Topics that were included that evening briefly were we have a monthly update on buildings. We have one highlight was that the football field scoreboard had been installed, and we're having a good season, so it's nice to be able to see that score up in lights. We had some repair work done at the high school on a leak in the library. There was reports on Cedar Brook, Elkins Park, and Wyncote Elementary. As I say, there is no actions that came out of those topics that were discussed, and this presentation is found on our website. The next meeting for the facilities will be on Tuesday, November 9th at 7 p.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. England. Liaison Group, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you. The liaison group has not met since last meeting, and we're in the process of scheduling the next meeting. That completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Policy, Ms. Haywood.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Henry. The Policy Committee meeting was held on September 29th, 2021 at 8 a.m. in the morning via Zoom. After roll call and approval of the minutes from the August 25th meeting, we discussed the items listed on the consent agenda under policies. That included 3 policies that are going to be presented this evening for adoption. And there are several other policies that are listed for proposal for repeal, because the content of those policies is incorporated into other board policies. This evening, the 2 policies presented for adoption include policy in AR 218, student discipline, which has been the subject of the last 2 policy committee meetings. And I just wanted to emphasize that this policy has been significantly updated to really emphasize the restorative practices approach to discipline in the school district. We will post the AR that includes the consequences charts for both the primary and secondary levels, to the extent that there's any additional modifications or recommended changes that we receive from the community and or students. The second policy up for adoption this evening is policy in AR 826, social media. And that policy was updated to reflect current practices with respect to processing or the process for posting different items on social media. Policy in AR 921, public relations, although currently listed on the consent agenda for approval this evening, will return to the policy committee for repeat first read based on some additional comments that the policy committee received after the policy committee meeting. And just lastly, some other topics discussed during the new business of the meeting included two new policies, policy 810.3, school vehicle drivers, and policy in AR 238 regarding threat assessment. They will be combined with four other first read policies as listed on the agenda, all of which, when they are presented for board approval, will be combined with other policies for repeal because the content of those policies is now incorporated into the first read policy. So all first read policies and ARs, again, will be discussed at the next policy committee meeting on Wednesday, October the 27th at 8 o'clock via Zoom. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Haywood.
You're welcome.
Next, we'll move to the approval of consent agenda items. Approval of treasurer's report, attachments as listed.
Pam, excuse me, I'm sorry, but don't we have two more committee reports, communications and legislative?
Thank you for that. I turned over the page after I saw Ms. Haywood, and it was the last page where she does legislative. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay, so I'm sorry, communications, Ms. Lohman.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. Pull this up here. The Communications Committee convened over Zoom on Thursday, September 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. for its monthly meeting. The committee received a presentation from Kevin Kaufman, the District's Director of Communications. The agenda included updates on the recently vacated digital content specialist position, work being done on the Alumni Association engagement platform, and the 2021-22 communications plan. With regard to the digital content specialist position, that job description has been updated to include additional writing and news gathering responsibilities. A subcommittee of the Alumni Association is collaborating with Mr. Kaufman in the vetting and consideration of an all-in-one engagement platform for its constituents. And Mr. Kaufman did show the committee what that platform looks like. The communications plan included 4 big goals: increasing news stories, highlighting district events and activities, reinforcing the CSD brand through increased student interest stories, increasing engagement with post-elementary, new and disengaged families, and working with the Alumni Association to solidify data and begin to build a database. Some of the special areas for consideration this academic year include introducing the new superintendent, highlighting the incoming board members, BEC contract negotiations, the district's equity work, and student activities and achievement now that we are back in the buildings full time. The next Communications Committee meeting will be held on Thursday, October 28th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. This ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Legislative, Ms. Haywood.
Thank you. The Montgomery County School District Legislative Committee has not met since our last meeting. Our next meeting will be on October the 20th at 7 p.m. However, I wanted to highlight some proposed legislation at the state level just to bring to your attention that would impact public education. One is a voucher bill, House Bill 1254, which would amend the school code to include a new section 1507. This under proposed section 1507 would require within 30 days of the bill's effective date, a school district that does not provide full-time in-person instruction or that denies a student residing in the school district full-time in-person instruction in the school district, we'd have to establish a tuition grant program in the form of vouchers under the school code. The school district would have to use our funds received from the Commonwealth for educational purpose to fund these tuition grants. This is again a voucher bill similar to other voucher bills that have been presented in the past, which our school district has opposed. There is as we're aware, there's a school bus driver shortage, and there's been approved resolution by the Senate Transportation Committee that urges Congress and the U.S. Department of Transportation to take action on the nationwide school bus driver shortage. And that would be by reforming the commercial driver license requirements to lessen the burdens for obtaining and maintaining a school bus endorsement. Hopefully that will help. Lastly, I really just wanted to point out a couple of high-level issues, one which is really important to our school district. The Pennsylvania Department of Education has proposed draft regulations on proposed charter school regulations. These regulations would include changes in certain areas, including charter school application requirements, non-discriminatory enrollment policies, Board of Trustees ethics standards, financial and auditing standards, redirection process clarification, and charter school employee healthcare benefits parity. These are proposed regulations that would require an opportunity or provide an opportunity for school districts to provide comments by October the 18th. I will be circulating those proposed regulations to Dr. Hacker, Dr. Scriven, and the school board for review and possible submission of comments. Currently, PASA supports the regulation and has been urging school district officials to submit comments in support of these proposed regulations. As we know, charter school reform is really essential to our school district and other school districts in Pennsylvania. And I think these proposed regulations would really go a long way to really tightening up the reforms that are needed for the charter schools themselves in terms of accountability, in terms of standards. And lastly, just wanted to point out that this week, there are a few board members who will be participating in the PSBA Advocacy Day, and we'll have an opportunity to meet with our elected officials, Representative Napoleon Nelson and State Senator Art Haywood, to discuss with them really the impacts of COVID-19 as it relates to the reopening of schools this year, mandate relief, and as well charter school reform. So we look forward to having those conversations and sharing our practices, our experiences with these elected officials, so they have a bird's eye view of what we are facing and really how we have responded to some of those challenges. That concludes my report, Ms. Henry.
Thank you, Ms. Haywood. Now I think we're ready for the approval of the consent agenda items. Approval of Treasurer's Report, attachments as listed. Approval of volunteer as listed. Approval of personnel actions as listed. Approval of agreements as listed. And approval of payments as listed. Policies for adoption and first read. Do I have a motion to approve?
Ms. Henry,
Ms. Henry, I just wanted to make sure that we noted the amendment to policy 921 that was offered, that was discussed. I just want to make sure that that language got into the motion as part of the first read for policy 921. Do you want me to read the language?
Yes, please.
Okay, so policy 921 will include language after the second full paragraph that states the district will make media relations a priority to ensure, to the extent possible, that we contribute to the narrative about the district rather than letting that narrative be defined without the district's contribution, end quote. And that makes policy 921 instead of adoption up for a new first read.
Okay, as noted. Thank you, Mr. Roos. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Joel Fishbein.
Thank you, Joel.
Second, Charles Bordeaux Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Are there any comments or discussion from the board on any of these items? Dan Schultz, Mr. Schultz?
Just a double clarification that in addition to that language being added, that policy 921 is a first read only, not for adoption as part of this motion. That's correct, right?
Right, that's
I did
correct.
say that.
So it's, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Roos. I just wanted to
Okay.
clarify for myself.
And Mr.
No other
Schultz-
discussion.
Wait,
Mr.
wait.
Schultz, sorry.
Okay, wait a minute. So Dan, were you finished?
Yes, that was all. Thank you.
Okay, Julie, your hand was up.
It'll go back, Mr. Schultz, as a repeat first read to the policy committee with that change.
Thank you, Ms. Haywood. That is my understanding. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roos, for reading that specific language that will be added.
Thank you. So any other board comment? Seeing none, we will take this as an affirmation vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And so the motion carries. There are personnel items not subject to vote as listed in the agenda. We'll move to public comments on agenda items only. And if you recently joined after the first set of comments, you can address the meeting via audio, but not video. I would ask you that you would put your name, where you reside in the community next to your name. So we have that information and you can raise your hand for.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Ms. Henry, I think you said agenda items. I think you meant to say non-agenda
I'm
items.
sorry, I did, on non-agenda items. So we're at 10% on non-agenda items for clarification. Thank you for that.
Sure.
If you are attending via either cable or online streaming, you can email comments to CSD board meeting comments at cheltenham.org. Again, it's listed in the agenda. C is a lot of syllables here. CSD board meeting comments at cheltenham.org. So I will allow a minute to see if there are any hands raised. And even if you don't have time to put where you reside and you have a comment, at least raise your hand while you're doing that so we know that you have a comment and we can move you to the appropriate state. I'm not seeing any hands being raised. Are there any emails that have come in for acknowledgement? All right, seeing none, I will move to response to prior public questions. Were there any prior public questions?
There were not.
Okay, great, thank you. For future meetings, I want to make note of the following items that will be updated and reposted on the agenda. Because of the upcoming election, the agenda build and facilities and finance committee meeting will move to November 9th. The regular legislative board meeting will move to Tuesday, November 16th. The educational affairs meeting will move to Tuesday, November 23rd. The other meetings are as listed. Ms. Loman?
I had a question about the time of the Educational Affairs meeting next week, October 19th. Are we starting at 6:30 or are we starting at 7, those meetings now?
My understanding was that all of our evening meetings start at 7 unless there's agenda review or agenda build included.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hacker. So that is currently listed as starting at 6:30 p.m.
I see that. You are correct. I will verify that with Dr. Smith, but again, I don't see any reason why that should necessarily be at a different time than our other meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for pointing it out.
You're welcome.
So I do see, although we're not taking questions in the chat, there is a comment or a question about was the public comment on non-agenda items missed? And did you miss it? And so I guess you did, but since we're still here, if you can update your name with where you reside in the district and raise your hand so we can see who you are, we can unmute you for your comment. And so it's Liza Maris. Can we move her to audio so that she can speak? And Liza, as you speak, can you just state where you reside in the district? Once you're moved to the audio portion.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you so much. Sorry, I was confused about the structure. So my name is Liza Maris. I'm a Wyncote resident. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a member of Police Free CSD in the Cheltenham branch of the NAACP. I want to say it, like Cheltenham has made really amazing strides in the past year, revising the memorandum of understanding with the police department to reduce the number of offenses a child can be arrested for, changing the disciplinary chart to remove referral to law enforcement and restorative practices. The board has shown great dedication to moving away from punitive measures and towards restorative practices and support for mental health. And it's been really just amazing and heartwarming. And it's like Cheltenham is this beacon of just how to move forward into a new way to approach discipline. And I know that this is a particularly difficult year for so many reasons and so many people. I'm a teacher myself. So like recent climate changes at the school have certainly heightened emotions. But I also want to like keep our focus on the needs of our students, that our students are experiencing a unique and are certainly experiencing mental health from that. The behaviors that have been happening in the school are a predictable effect of isolation and the global pandemic on their mental health, that students are just not making good decisions in the way that they used to as a result of the past year and a half. And yet I've heard a lot of blame and threats and punishment in response to our climate issues. You know, there's a lot of blame for students. There's a lot of blame given to parents. There's a lot of blame on TikTok. And I think we should blame COVID, right? Because it's not our students, it's students all across the country, and it's not parents of our students, it's happening across the country. And social media existed before the pandemic. But this is uniquely different. It's an unprecedented mental health emergency. And we have ESSER funds from the federal government in order to address that. So I'm a little shocked to see things like somebody pulls a fire alarm and there's a $1,000 fine to families and a suspension. So my question there is like, what would restorative practices look like? And I know that we're like building this right now. We're on the roller coaster and building it as we go. But if we're trying to rebuild something between the offender and the community, what would that look like? You know, and I'm just not confident that it looks like fining family members that weren't involved in the incident $1,000, or what if that $1,000 means that family can't eat? I don't think that's what we want, right? Or the suspension when the student is removed from the community because they're, you know, bad and it's a punishment. How are we making them feel like our school is a place that they want to cherish and respect like it's home? And I think that students aren't going to treat the school like it's home unless we treat them like they're home, you know? And I feel like even if we had a child who destroyed something, even if it was expensive and even if it was intentional, you know, we wouldn't fine our own children. So I'm just hoping that we can sort of reignite this passion for restorative practice and start to build this as we go, and look at it as an opportunity to really dive into how can we do this in a way that's not blaming or punitive or reactionary, because our kids are really going through a lot, and it's really not their fault that, you know, COVID happened. And I just want to urge us to keep holding fast to what we decided was really important a year ago. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So before we move to adjourn the meeting, Julie, you had one comment that you wanted to make about the legislative format, or it's not the legislative, but the educational affairs format.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Maris, for your comments in terms of, I think they're important comments and ones that obviously we will, you know, think about and take seriously. So very much appreciate your comments to the board and to the administration. I just wanted to mention, Ms. Lohman, in terms of the 6:30 start time for the affairs, that had been a board decision that was made probably under, definitely was made under a previous superintendent's direction several years ago, to change that affairs meeting to 6:30. Of course, that does not mean that the board cannot now change that meeting back to 7 o'clock to be consistent with other committee meetings, but there was no accident that that was listed at 6:30. That has been in place for actually several years. But I'm definitely in support of changing that to 7 o'clock, so it's consistent with the other committee meetings as well.
Thank you, Julie. And we do have another question that from an attendee. Can we unmute Eliza Davison?
Hi, this is Lisa Davidson. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And apologies for mispronouncing your name.
That's okay. Yep, so I am a parent in the district. I am the Cedar Brook 7th grade volleyball coach, and I'm a proud member of Police Free CSD. I'm here tonight in my role on Police Free CSD. We've heard ideas around how to spend the ESSERS money shared in different board committees and through some administrators. Police Free CSD is calling for significant spending to employ full-time social workers in our school buildings. We believe the benefits to our students and their families' mental, social, and emotional health will be evident that this kind of spending must be a priority in our budget, not just with ESSERS money. Police Free CSD believes that public safety can be achieved through addressing the root issues that cause social conflict. We will continue to be involved as we make these decisions. We'll welcome Dr. Scriven and anticipate meeting with him when he starts. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to encourage you all to attend the committee meetings where we can have greater dialogue and discussion about those items. So hopefully we will see you at one of our upcoming committee meetings soon. So I think we are okay to move to adjourn this meeting. Motion to approve.
Move to adjourn. Julie Haywood.
Second, Bill England.
The motion carries. I don't think you all have any comment.
Well, since you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We can stay for another hour.